Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Please, I want to confirm that you can hear me clearly.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. Welcome, everyone, to today's AMA session. Really nice to have you here, and apologies for the issues with joining in. I think some settings changed, and it required the passcode. So we'll just wait a bit for others to join in. Our speaker is here already. Hi, John. Good afternoon. Really nice to have you here with us today.
Hello. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good to be here.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll just wait a few minutes and then we'll start right away. Okay, so while we are waiting for others, you can just type where you're chatting from. You can drop your favorite emoji in the chat. And then just let us know how your day has been so far. Usually, we would ask, like, if your day was a color, what color would you say your day has been? I think mine has been blue in a good way, not blue like sad. I've had a cool, chill day so far today, so yeah, my day would be blue. You can just type it in the chat what your day has been like. Alexander from Lagos, welcome. Okay, a number of people might be having issues with the code, so but so that we do not waste any more time, I think we'll just go right ahead. Hi, John, once again. Welcome, John from Lekki. Okay, green day so
That's
far.
me.
Okay, you said your day is green so far. Why is that?
Well, apparently, I had to visit an ex-colleague, and I mean the environment, I'm thinking I just need to go back to my village at this point because I was inhaling good, like very very natural air,
Yeah,
trees and
very
all of that.
different.
Exciting to know that this place still exists in Lagos. You know,
Yeah, very different from the normal Lagos smell that we are used to every day.
my darling. Yes.
Okay. All right, so I will just go ahead and introduce our speaker. John Mago currently holds the position of Chief Information Security Officer at Sterling Bank PLC, enhancing Sterling Bank's fraud monitoring framework by leveraging digital technologies and implementing artificial intelligence and behavioral capabilities. He has played a role in developing enterprise user access frameworks and access management for bank applications, as well as coordinating disaster recovery and business continuity efforts. John has a Bachelor of Engineering in Computer Engineering from the University of Benin, a Master of Business Administration from the University of Chichester in the United Kingdom, and has earned a Level 7 diploma in Strategic Management and Leadership from the Metropolitan School of Business and Management in the United Kingdom. With multiple certifications under his belt, Mr. Mago has gained extensive proficiency in information security, fraud and risk management, compliance, internal audits, forensic investigations, and revenue assurance, while continuing to align best practices with business objectives. Everybody, let's give a virtual clap for John Mago. Welcome. Really nice to have you here. So, yeah, I'll go right away with the first question. So I would ask you, like, so if your life was a book, so before we go straight into the cybersecurity questions, if your life was a book, what title would it be and why that title?
Hmm. Interesting. I've in the past I've had so many questions like if you're an animal, what animal will you be? If you're an emoji, if you're a color, a book. Interesting. Um, I mean, my entire life has been about technology, really. Right? So I will still tilt towards technology to say, if my life was a book, there's this buzzword where people say tech bro, tech guy, you know. I
Tech
would lean
quiz,
towards it.
yeah.
I would stay along that lane, yeah. And I'll say
Okay.
somewhere around technology, technology and the future, right? I'm really keen, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'm really keen on anything that's got some level of evolution, right? And right from when I was a teenager, where I began to have sense, I've always loved aerodynamics. I've always loved the evolution of even as much as cars, mobile phones, anything that is digital inclined, and it's also pretty much what drives my knowledge acquisition. So, um, in trying to gain more knowledge, build capacity, I always build towards the future, right? And it's not then it's not a surprise for me how I have also seen the technology in itself evolve into where it is today. And how people, when everyone was watching Tales by Moonlight and the likes, I was watching those alien-like movies and the journeys to the moon and astronauts. Those are the things that used to buzz me. So yes. If my life was a book, I would say technology and evolution would be it for me.
Okay. Technology and evolution then, or it could also be Odogo in tech, something like that.
That would be nice. That would be nice as
Okay.
well.
Yeah. So I mean that was just like an icebreaker question, but then we've already started going in depth with just that question, which means that there's so much for us to learn from you today. So my next question would be if you I mean what's that one thing that a lot of people who are outside the cybersecurity field often um find surprising or interesting when you get to tell them about cybersecurity?
Hmm. So every time I speak about cybersecurity, and I've done this quite a lot, especially for maybe people I'd call newbies that maybe are not so tech savvy.
Yeah.
Um, there's always a rush, that's adrenaline rush where they begin to hear about the kind of threats and when I speak about them and the kind of impact it has, and they're like, oh, so, and again, maybe it also affects the climate that we are in Nigeria, where we don't really have that tech literacy, really. And you find people assume that cybersecurity does not apply to this part of the world, or that it shouldn't
Yeah.
because maybe we have not evolved technologically actually to that level. But the truth is that we have evolved and we are there, and we have been there for quite some time, and the threat actors are coming home now, right? So it becomes a concern for everybody. So to answer your question, yes, there's always that trio to there's always this live map that I share that I like to speak on. And when people see, they're like, so all these attacks are happening like now, like it's happening real time
Right.
now. And I'm like, yes, it's happening real time. Like, okay. So yeah, I mean, I I never get surprised when I see that look on their face. But
Yeah.
and I think that's where awareness is extremely important. I don't think we are doing enough um, in Nigeria and maybe generally in Africa. And as much as we continue to push, and in sessions like this, is one of the thinkers as well, where we can also catch some few people, and speak the gospel of cybersecurity as much as possible, so everybody gets to know it, or have
Yeah.
an idea about it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for that. You talked a bit about beginners in the field. So what would you say is a non-tech skill that every cybersecurity beginner should have?
Well, everybody that owns a mobile phone or a mobile device or any kind of electronic device um, should have basic knowledge around how to protect that device. First there's the physical protection, right? That you must be sure.
Mm,
You know what? If I have a mobile phone, I must keep my phone safe. It is my phone, right?
mm,
But overall, to answer your question, I think the most important thing to know is how to safeguard access to um that device, whether it's as long as it's electronic, it's digital. How do you safeguard access to it, right? So
mm,
everybody should not have access to it because it's privileged to you,
mm,
right? So again, how do you safeguard that device? How do you restrict access to just yourself? Would then be your password, right? Your password becomes
mm,
the key thing that only you will know. So what you know, right? Then again, maybe whilst you start with that, then there are other multiple ways to then ensure how to authenticate with access. So then what you know, then what you have or who you are. So your biometrics come into play, your facial recognition come into play. Most of us already use these things today. So even if you have the password to our devices, we also still use our facial recognition to log into the device. So yes, but for baseline knowledge, access into that device should be the most critical thing, and which is the password.
Okay. Thank you once again for that. So, what would you say is the first, when building like a risk management framework for maybe individuals or an organization that's focused mostly on an organization, when building a risk management framework, like what's the first thing that you need to consider or put in place for that?
Okay. Um. So in my former life, I have managed risk management for a fintech. I was the head of risk management, and there are always all these nice looking frameworks and policies, NIST, Basel, COVID, and all of that. You know, it's interesting because again, like I said, there are baseline frameworks that guide how that process should be defined or structured around the
Mm,
people, the technology. So when I mean people, I mean in the structure, right, and in the governance, right. So, and then when you say technology, in the build of the technology, and pretty much around people around in the technology as well. But then the most important part is the processes, right? The processes around how you manage your risk, right?
mm,
For me, we already have certain policies and guidelines, but I like to tilt towards best practices, industry best practices, and um, standards, right? So there are local standards and there are international standards. So the first thing you want to know is you first want to be able to use a baseline standard to align with your practice based on your environment, right? So industries
mm,
differ, environments differ. You would not, the risk that apply to a production or a manufacturing industry is different for what applies to a financial institution, for instance, right? So it's
yeah,
important that you must tie your risk management framework to your industry. And again, of course, it will always then be centered about your regulator as well and how important they have also placed baseline um, best practices as well for that industry. So for me, first align with your standard, align with your environment, rather align the standard to your environment. Then you begin
yeah,
to start with all the identifying your risk and projecting business impact analysis and all of those nice due diligences that you must do to ensure that you maintain a stable risk management.
Okay, thank you for that. You said to align your standards to your environment. So I think you talked a bit about like the next question I'm going to ask you, but you can still share more on that. So, the corporate space today is mostly remote. Like almost every organization now is either going fully remote or hybrid. So what are the cybersecurity risks that can be involved with that? For example, if it's not a remote workspace and then someone experiences like a cybersecurity breach at work, they can quickly go to the IT office, to fix that. But then a case where the person is at home, what are those risks that can be involved, and how can the employees themselves be better positioned for that?
Interesting question. And again, evolution of times. Yeah. After COVID, a lot of organizations then tilted to having the hybrid, or in some instances, fully remote work structure. I think this has been one of the biggest nightmares of CISOs globally, because back in the day, we would have um, direct access to our people, to our employees, right? We would have um, we would have physical security available, which means we can account for everybody per time. Then we build physical security around how they function, right? And how they have access to privileged infrastructure, both physical, restricted areas, and also logical access, right?
Yeah.
For physical access, it's easy to cover because I just need to put a man guard, or I need to put a mantra, or I put a door, I put a biometric there, and I can restrict people
Mm.
for physical security. I mean, I can also sell um, cultures around tailgating and all of that, and everybody be aligned to it. But it's most difficult for logical security, because now for
Yeah.
logical security, we now have to monitor critical, sensitive, privileged access of people who should by who should ordinarily have access to some applications or some privileged systems like firewalls, servers, applications, right?
Mm.
So we now need to monitor how they use those logical assets that we have granted to them. One of the biggest risks that we see today is granting least privilege. It's a good concept, least privilege for everybody. However, because there are privileged users, administrative users that must have those access to those platforms, and they are not available, they are not around physically. Today, we run hybrid systems where you see some of your developers or DevOps are some are in the US, in the UK. Jackpot has happened, right? But you still need
Yeah.
these people because they have the capacity to, or
Mhm.
capability to carry out the functions, right? So to say the least is that it's a pain. CISOs have had to adjust. Myself, I've been a CISO for almost a decade, right, in different institutions, but we have always had to adjust because that evolution of workplace has happened. So we have to keep to how do we now manage these people and how they now have this access. One of the solutions that has come into play is a privileged access management solution called a PAM. What this does is it restricts um, the users, the most critical users, sensitive users that should have access to critical infrastructure and applications, and it restricts them to what and how they can access it, those applications, and also the kind of authentication that they must have to log into these servers and this different technology environment, right? But generally, because of this, we have also had to tilt into using the VPNs, right? So that people can then have monitored access to this critical infrastructure. All of these different concepts put together have kind of supported us in this workplace model. Is it still a risk? Of course it is, because if there is um, privilege creep, right? Where or access creep, what we also call access creep, where a user is given excessive access that is outside or more than what they should have. This, and then there is a malicious activity with that user. Then, of course, the Office of the Security is held responsible, right? Because that access is more than it should have, and that's where the concept of least privilege comes into play, right? So I must give you what you need to have. I will not exceed the privileges or the roles based on your day-to-day activities. But yeah, it is a pain point that we have had to manage and will continue to manage user access, right, as much as possible. Well, for CISOs, our nightmare.
Okay, thank you so much for that. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat so that we can read as we go on. Okay, I think someone has a question here. It says, my question is the ongoing question in our subgroup. So we have a community where all our cybersecurity people that are taking our cybersecurity course, they are in that group, so they get to interact and ask questions. So on the group, he said, we're talking about our mobile data network. What do you have to say to our data network? Are they encrypted or unencrypted, just like public Wi-Fi? And if someone or the network provider is able to hack into them, so for example, Airtel, MTN, do you think they can have access to our data and information, such as our contacts, our phone numbers, stuff like that?
Interesting question. And I assume this is a Sterling conversation, and
Um,
this
well,
forum is in Sterling, or do we have externals on the?
no, we have externals.
Okay, right. But this person seemed to speak when he says our network. I assume this person is the Sterling staff. Okay, yeah. So I will speak generally. Um, Generally, for every institution, um, network communication should be encrypted internally, especially if you have third-party providers where you must send messaging to receive a feedback. So there are different types of encryption. So there's the one-way and the two-way encryption. To communicate across your infrastructure with a third party, you would need to encrypt that communication, right? And whatever you're passing through in that tunnel, that data needs to be encrypted. The recipient, of course, has the decryption key, right? And that person is able to decrypt and then see the message that you're passing through. Extremely important. This is important because there's a risk called a man in the middle attack, where any hackers, the bad hackers, right? But I mean, I'm one of the good guys, right? Where the bad guys can
Yeah.
sniff that traffic and be able to divert information from that communication line if it's not encrypted. It's open, and that's why you see we always preach the gospel that when you go to a public networks are not encrypted network. What that means is if you find a young man sitting down with his laptop, he could easily just be sniffing that traffic and trying to pull information. Now, along that tunnel, a lot of data is shared. So to
Hello, John. Can anyone else hear John?
No, we can't.
Okay. So I guess he's having network issues. We'll just wait a bit for him to join. So while we are waiting for him to join, we'll just go through comments, questions that we have in the group. Please just wait a while I try to reach out to him.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I apologize. I probably have to go off the video because my power went off. But I've switched internet. I apologize.
Okay.
All right. To the question asked, in a communication where there is no encryption, again, what that means is your data is at risk, right? And that's where the concept of data privacy and how you then protect that data and data security comes into play and extremely handy, right? So yes, your PII, your personal information, will be at risk across that network, that tunnel. It will be at risk because as you use your information and as you access those public Wi-Fi's or public environments, you then have the risk of losing that information. And so what we try to preach in this instance is, regardless of how it is important to log into some public Wi-Fi's to access the internet, you must be conscious of the activities that you carry out on your device. Right, extremely important. It is, we don't expect that logging onto a public network will probably just be to access quick information. As much as possible, try not to carry out any financial activity on at that moment, because then in your financial activity, remember that you'll be calling different APIs. In that API that you're calling to, maybe you are a Sterling Bank account owner, you want to access your One Bank mobile banking app, and you log into a public device. What it means is you are calling the data and the database and the core banking of Sterling Bank. That is where all your information is available, right? If you run it through a public Wi-Fi, for
Right.
instance, what it means is all your information that you are passing through, that are looking up, can be exploited and be sniffed out. Um, Again, do not open your personal emails on public Wi-Fi's, because again, that gives the threat actor direct access into your personal emails. And if you do that with me, if I wanted to exploit your email, I would first want to have access to your email, because I assume that that's where I can also see a lot of sensitive information and communication you have within your email messaging to other people. That would be a good start for me to begin to hack you in other ways. So yes, extremely important. Personal emails do not, in fact, personal or corporate, because corporate also then puts your corporate entity at risk as well. But it's important that you don't do any financial activity, because then it's easy to sniff your password, your PIN, whatever communication is happening across your mobile device and the platform you are connecting to.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think that was a very detailed answer. So I hope that fully answers your question, Kendi. Somebody else has a question. Alexander is asking, are there additional risks in using of personal network devices for official work, maybe sending mails, attending meetings, and collaborating on shared documents?
I mean, the risk is there. Very good question. The risk is there. Um, I, I I struggle to understand why anyone would use their personal emails to um, access the work environment. I believe that everyone should have their own corporate email. Best practice is that you use your corporate email to attend to corporate duties, right? But in events that you are not able to access and you need to use your personal email. So the thing is, for the corporate email, a lot of security has been put together around the domain to protect your corporate domain, right? So mail filters, email filter, data loss prevention solutions, a lot of things have been put together to protect it, and it's sitting behind a firewall anyway. So the firewall already understands the traffic that is seen, so it's able to manage it for mailwares that could come in. But you realize that, and I'm sure most of us on this call have public emails like Yahoo, Gmail, MSN, AOL, and they are not necessarily protected, right? And I can bet most of us on this call have not even paid for the premium service of these public domains. So at the end of the day, they are also not protecting us from spam mails or junk mails, right? And it is in these spam mails and junk mails that phishing attacks are are predominant, and that's where malwares and trojans are also passed through in form of phishing links, right?
Mm.
If you become susceptible to a phishing attack, what that means is if you use your personal email, if you
Mhm.
then use that personal email with that device as well to log into your corporate environment, you have put your corporate institution at risk, right? Because the way it works is worms can be transferred across different systems digitally, right? What that means is if you take that device into your corporate environment, it becomes susceptible. If you do not have the appropriate endpoint detection response solution (EDR), what laymen will call antivirus, for instance, that is able to scan your device when you come into your environment, then what that
Mm.
means is you have introduced the malware that was just applicable to you through a phishing attack. You have introduced it into the entire institution. So this is not good practice, right? If you have a personal email, use your personal email for your personal activities, to connect to your corporate environment, attend meetings and all of that. Use your corporate email.
Mm.
That's the best practice to do.
Okay, thank you so much. As you were saying that, what was just coming to mind is prevention, or the way Nigerians would say it, prevention better pass cure. So it's
Mm-hmm.
better to not even try that at all. Okay, thank you for that. So my next question would be, what role does artificial intelligence, I mean, everyone's talking about artificial intelligence today. So what role does artificial intelligence play in the cybersecurity field? And particularly, how can newbies, people who are just coming into the cybersecurity space, how can they leverage artificial intelligence?
Good question. That buzzword, artificial intelligence, is such a sweet word, and the way people use it, it's quite interesting. Um,
Yeah.
but ironically, do you know we have been using artificial intelligence for quite some time, and we didn't even know we're doing it. Right? It's been around for some time in some of the systems that we use. So even sometimes, even in the processes that we have built in some sort of learning and knowledge base in that process. Um, Technically, FAQs are sort of related to artificial intelligence because you have primed um, some sort of pattern in which you expect people to do some sort of problem solving. And that's really what AI has come to do, to solve certain problems that humans cannot do, or to also
Yeah.
ensure efficiency in our day to day human capabilities, right? Artificial intelligence is beautiful, really. And because already, I love evolution, right? We have been waiting for AI for forever. Like, I'm not just
Mm.
waiting for AI. When is it going to come to Africa? And when is it going to come to Nigeria? So it is here now, and we are beginning to build artificial intelligence in a lot of our technologies and in a lot of the processes that we carry out in our day to day. So I was speaking in relation to cybersecurity. Today we have a security operations center, the SOC, right? And well, most institutions have a SOC, but I will speak for us in Sterling, right? We have a security operations center that we are able to see all the traffic that comes into um, the network infrastructure of the bank and all the traffic that leaves. So the traffic that comes in, they are called ingress traffic, and the traffic that leaves are called egress traffic. It's important to see
Right.
what is coming in and going out. Extremely important because you are then able to understand where there's an anomaly. So if there's a cyber attack on the infrastructure, I'm able to see that I don't know this traffic. I've never received this traffic before. I don't know where it's coming from. And there are some locations that when you receive some traffic from, you want to sit back and be like, okay, why is this coming to me? And what system is it trying to talk to? So, for instance, where I see a traffic coming from Malaysia, coming from China, coming from North Korea, coming from Russia. These are high risk zones, right? That I want to take a second look and be sure that these are not cyber attacks. Even the United States of America also, because there are a lot of gray hackers there. We know this, and we also monitor their activities, and we have cyber threat intelligence from a lot of communities that we follow. So we're able to pull all of these logs together and identify what traffic is high risk traffic and low risk traffic. Where artificial intelligence comes into play is it helps us understand, put all of this traffic in a learning mode for a particular time. And this is not manually done. So we have systems and tools for vulnerability management that do this for us on our behalf. It helps us understand the traffic for some time. So it's almost like saying, let me explain this in a layman term. Now that if I see Ebube on the call, right? If Ebube constantly does 20,000 naira in his transactions every day, right? Cumulative in a day, he will spend 20. Suddenly, Ebube does 20 million, right? It becomes an anomaly. It might be legitimate, right? Ebube could have just sold his father's property or land and suddenly has hit 20 million and he receives it. But for us, it is an anomaly. It is a change in his pattern. It is a change
Yeah.
in his trend, and we want to take it out and do an extended due diligence on that activity. Point that to cybersecurity is the same thing, right? Where you see, I'm seeing a particular traffic coming from the United States and it is speaking to my core banking application or my jump box solution, right? And suddenly I see something coming from Malaysia. I know that I'm not doing any business with anybody. I don't have a third party person in Malaysia. I could have a customer that has traveled to Malaysia, and because the moment he does his one bank transactions, definitely is going to speak to an API within my environment. But however, I want to be sensitive to be sure this is not a cyber threat or a cyber attack. So I will quarantine that traffic to its side and take an extra look at the source of the traffic and its destination. What this has done for us in artificial intelligence is I don't have to manually do this. I have a system that can do it because the system has been in learning mode for maybe 2 to 3 months, understands the traffic, knows the different sources of communication, where when it sees something that is different, it is able to single it out and then carry out extended activities. Of course, I run a 24 by 7 security operations center in Sterling, rather than I have people that run day-to-day shifts in this. So somebody is also checking to be sure that even if the AI solution has singled out this traffic, someone needs to validate. And it's like a second responder because the AI has been the first responder to isolate it. Second responder is then to then check the communication. Who is it talking to? Should it be talking to? Is it a legitimate traffic? Is it a malicious traffic? If it's a malicious traffic, we will drop the traffic, which means we will break that communication. If it is legitimate and a customer of ours has traveled to Malaysia and just wants to access his one bank, then we would allow the traffic to go. So AI has been extremely instrumental in almost all our solutions. Almost all our solutions. And yes, I think that like people say, it has not come to take people's
So,
employees' job. It has only come to
yeah.
make them more effective and efficient.
Mhm. Thank you so much for that answer. Now, almost everyone uses ChatGPT, Gemini, and many other AI apps. So, what are the security risks that are involved with that? How far is too far? Like, with someone putting in their organization's information or even their personal information, what are those risks that are involved, and then how can we limit or mitigate those risks?
Interesting question. Ah, ChatGPT is one of my friends. If it was a human being, it would probably be my best friend. Because I think that it's a good concept, especially because it's built around artificial intelligence for sure. It's also built around some sort of machine learning, especially in pulling data from different sources. But again, every good thing also has its bad sides to it, and I'll tell you the risk that we see. It is safe to say that whatever you see in ChatGPT, somebody has put that information there. There is no special place where it is getting its data or information from except the internet. What that means is it is me and you that have uploaded something to the internet that the ChatGPT will go in there to do a search to pull out information. There's no other special place it's getting it from but the internet. Nevertheless, because that information is there, what this tells us and what we should be conscious about is what we then put on the internet. That should be the place of consciousness. Because the more information of yourself or your organization or privileged information that should not be available or accessible to the internet, the more of this we upload to the internet, the more somebody else somewhere is searching through ChatGPT and is getting access to this information. So extremely important not to upload your sensitive, privileged data or information over the internet, because what that means is today anybody does a search, in relation to that information, it would get access to it, right? What the threat actors have begun to do is use ChatGPT to trace people, right? So if you go to ChatGPT and do a search on a human being, for instance, and I say I want to see Ebubeago and where he lives and his phone number. If Ebubeago has ever put his phone number on the internet and where he lives, his location, if he has ever uploaded it, what this means is somebody in China logging into ChatGPT can have access to that. That becomes a risk, right? So I'm trying to break it down really, and this is not just a person. It could be an organization, an institution. It could even be the government. Sensitive information should not be that culture. It should not be uploaded into the internet because ChatGPT then makes it accessible to everybody globally. I hope I was able to answer that question.
Yes, sure you were. If you'd like to learn more about artificial intelligence, we have a course on Verticul for prompt engineering for beginners. So the link will be in the chat. So you can just click on it to learn more about how to use ChatGPT, so that you don't put in the wrong prompt and get more risk. And so someone said Ibubiagu, please be careful with ChatGPT. Okay, Ibubiagu is talking to himself. So yes, please be careful and also don't be scared. Okay, so someone else has a question. It says, can you give explicit explanation on why HTTPS is different from HTTP? Some may think one is genuine to another. Also, the strings or websites like .org, .com, .ng, and so on. Because to me, I guess this is where we stay on guard to see which or where the link is from, so as to know if we can click on it or not. Lastly, I see the link starting from bit.ly and so on. How are they different from the normal www? Are they phishing mail or smishing? So that's a lot packed into one question, but I hope you got that.
I did. I would take them one after the other. I'll try.
Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to look for where the question is. So, what's the difference between HTTP and HTTP, HTTPS? The
Yeah.
S just tells you that it's secure, right? So there's something
Okay.
already. There is a concept of SSL that will call SSL certificate that makes it secure, right? How to say this in a layman term? Whenever you put in, so we have open ports. When we develop web applications, which is where you have your URLs, right? Your www dots, and most times you see the HTTP comes first, or HTTPS. It just tells you that this web application was developed with a certain port opened or closed, right? When you have HTTP without the secure, what that tells you is this web application is vulnerable and there is no SSL certificate. The SSL certificate for HTTPS is what allows that web application to be secure. So there are certain encryptions around it where sensitive information cannot be sniffed in that URL, right? So you can be certain that you cannot upload a malware or a Trojan on an HTTPS because the SSL certificate is active, right? And SSL is called secure socket layer, right? So it's active. It allows for security. So whenever you try to log into a URL and you see that, you don't see that it's like a key holder sort of, if I recall. It's like a key holder on the link, and you don't see it there. That tells you that it is, because some websites will just show you www.john.com. It doesn't tell you if it is HTTPS. That's not the full web link, right? But when you click on it, you will see the full web link and you will see the HTTP or HTTPS. Be careful to always be very conscious to always go for the HTTPS, because there you can be sure that the SSL certificate has been imbibed on it, and the port used to be the web URL is a secure port, right? So HTTP is not secure. It is definitely not secure. The second question is, hey, and by the way, you don't want to do any financial activities on an HTTP website. You can be easily hacked and sniffed, and it can be easily exploited. But you can go to bed when you see an HTTPS. For the second question, I see also the strings or websites like .org, .com, .ng. Those are just domains. There's nothing malicious about them. They're just different kinds of domains, right? The domain .ng just restricts it to our local Nigeria. Yeah, .organization, it just depends on where you buy your domain from, right? So it's not a problem. Whatever string you see .org, .com, .ng, as long as it is HTTPS /: www.xyz.org.com.ng, it is fine, but just make sure it has that secure socket layer, that S behind the HTTP, and you have that key holder sort of icon that shows. Yes. Lastly, I do see the links starting for bids. No, that's not a problem. What has happened is sometimes, because of a lot of, do you know how you can zip file or zip a file that is too big? Right? I'm trying to say this in a layman terms. When you see a file that is very big, like maybe 50 gig, and you want to zip it to reduce the size, so you're able to transfer it or transmit it. That's really what that bit really does for you. It is almost as if you are zipping the link, because some websites are dynamic websites where somebody has clicked this to join this to go to the next page and that page and that page. If you click on the hyperlink, you see that it's a huge volume, but you don't want to copy all of that and send to somebody. You can then crush it into that one bit. It's almost like zipping that link and sending it to somebody. So it becomes, the word I'm looking for is compressed. When you compress the web link, it gives you a compression ID like the BIT that you see. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But once again, just ensure that it is a secure website that you're clicking on, and that will be fine. I hope I answered those three questions. That was like three questions in one.
Yeah, 3 questions in one. Okay, so from your previous response, someone is asking, does it mean the HTTPS sites are foolproof? Are there still inherent risks with HTTPS sites?
Can you say that again? Please repeat that.
Okay. Does it mean the HTTPS sites are foolproof? Are there still inherent risks with HTTPS sites?
To the best of my knowledge, no, right? Because there's already a lot of encryption that has been put into place. But again, that's a good question because you have encryption, but there are also different standards of encryption, right? That has happened, right? What that tells me is because I can have a TLS, right? A TLS 1.0, TLS 1.1, TLS 1.2, TLS 1.3. 1.3 is the most secure TLS, right? But if you use a 1.0, over time we have realized that 1.0 is still vulnerable. Okay, but a lot of this happens at the back. That's it's during deployment or development, excuse me, that we see these things and we're able to correct it. When you go to a web application that has the HTTPS, the expectation is they have baseline TLS version functional. So I think randomly it will generally be secure, but there has to be the culture that even when you are in those websites, you also need to be sure what you are doing on the website.
Yeah.
Right. So when you get on those kind of websites and you most times you're not able to clone those kind of websites because they're already secure websites, right? So you're able to carry out financial activities on those websites. Any other activity you see on the website that seems malicious, you have to be conscious not to do or not to follow or download certain things around those websites until you're very sure of the source or the owner of the website. So if it's the financial institutions, because we always follow, try not to get into the standards, because we always comply to the requirements of ISO 27101 for information security management system, PCI DSS, payment card industry data security and standard that caters for the card data environment. So when you follow all of those particular standards and you build a URL around those best practices, the likelihood is you are using the most recent TLS version, which makes your HTTPS foolproof, like this person mentioned. So yeah, I think generally I would say because they will tell you no system is 100% secure, and this is not to scare anybody. However, I think to a reasonable extent, you can be sure that an HTTPS web application or website is let me try to say 95% secure.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that, Alexander. I hope that answers your question. So in our community, someone had asked some questions. One of them was, please, what is the difference between encryption and decryption? How do we encrypt and how do we decrypt? Then the second question is, what is threat hunting?
Threat hunting, bug bounty. Okay, I'm just trying to write that down. Encryption
And decryption.
and decryption. Okay, I don't know if some of us when we were younger we used to have like a code with our guys. I know girls have like their girl code, some kind of language where only two of us know. When I raise my hand or I
What
sniff my
we
nose, I'm passing an
Yeah.
information, and any other person there is confused, like, what are these people talking about? Some people have languages where they
Yeah.
can back in the day, if I remember, I used to call it bacology, where instead of saying Mago, I would say Goma, right?
Okay.
So then my
Yeah.
name becomes Goma Nudge instead of John Mago, right?
Yeah.
And it's only somebody else that understands that language with me that can
Yeah.
decrypt it. I'm trying to use the word now because that's the question. This is similar to a concept called cryptography in cybersecurity, but not just cybersecurity, but generally in design, application design, and authentication. Right? What we are trying to say here is, I want to send a message to somebody very far, right?
Yeah.
I want this person to receive this message timely and efficiently. I want to be able to, I want to be certain that this information only gets to the recipient and nobody across that tunnel or across that traffic. And because this information is going over the internet, and there are multiple communications over that internet, and there are also threat actors waiting to sniff this information through a man in the middle attack, right? I want to be sure that Mr. B is going to, I am Mr. A, is going to receive this information and is going to be able to decrypt it to be able to read the information, assess the information, read it, understand it, and be able to decrypt it. So what this means for us is that there's something called two-way encryption, where I have a key, right? So it's almost like saying I'm taking money in a bullion van, right? I put the money in the bullion van, I lock it up, right? I'm moving this money from point A to point B. When I get to point B, I have to give the key that I've used to lock it in point A to the beneficiary in point B. That same key, he has to use it to open the bullion van to be able to access it. Along the line, anybody that stops that bullion van should not be able to access that money. I'm trying to break it down. So yes, in encryption, in two-way encryption, what it means is I have an information I want to send to Ebube. I only want to be able to know it. I write that information in a way, and then I decrypt it. I change the language,
Yeah.
right? I, without using, for lack of a better word, scatter the language. So anybody that sees it does not understand what I'm talking about. It is gibberish. It is like rubbish language. It is just rubbish. I just put there. You know, I scatter different V, Z, W, U, A, B, C, and anybody that sees it be like, this person just writing consonants, right, or vowels mixed together, but it's actually information, right? Now I send this information to Ebube, but I send Ebube a kind of key that when he uses that key to run that information, he's able to decrypt it, and then it comes back to the actual message I'm trying to send to him. So Ebube now has the decryption key. I have an encryption key, but so when he receives that message, he's able to now, oh, this is what John was trying to tell me, that I hope you're having a fantastic day, right? And this is the message. But before, if he didn't have that key, he would just see XYZBBARST, which is nonsense, which is gibberish, right? So that's really the concept of encryption, that I'm able to share. What we are really trying to do is make sure that nobody in between can access that information. And even if they steal the information, they cannot read it. Because most times, information that we share over the internet is sensitive information that should be encrypted, right? That answers the question on encryption. There was a second question.
Threat hunting.
There was a second question.
What is threat hunting?
Can you say that again?
What is threat hunting?
Okay, threat hunting. If you follow the literal sound of it, threat hunting means you are going to look for threats, have you? Then you ask yourself, why is anybody looking for threats? Like, why will you by yourself go and be looking for trouble? All right, but this is the way it works for us. I would speak about two concepts, right? One of the concepts is honeypot, and the second concept is bug bounty. I don't know if anyone has watched those movies in those days where the police will just say they are looking for Osama bin Laden, for instance. Just assuming that's I hope no one is related to Osama bin Laden on the call.
Hopefully.
uh, Osama bin Laden. Back in those days, there were few policemen. They used to leverage on the people to go and catch Osama bin Laden, bring him dead or alive, and then they pay a
An
bounty
amount.
fee, right?
Mm.
The same thing, that same concept applies to us in cybersecurity. We call it, you can call it threat hunting, you can call it bug bounty. What it means is what ethical hackers like us can do is I will go to a I'll try not to call a bank. For instance, Dangote. I hope nobody's working in Dangote. I'll go to a Dangote's website or a Dangote's um mobile application, and I will try to hack it. I will try to hack it, and I will get the vulnerabilities. Then I will write to Dangote and tell them that I have been able to hack your infrastructure. I did not bring down your platform. I mean, of course, I'm not going to do like DDoS attack or ransomware. I'm just going to try to see if I can exploit certain vulnerabilities in the applications. Right? I would run this exploit. Then I'll go to Dangote and say, "Hey guys, your application is vulnerable because I was outside. You don't know me, but I carried out a bug bounty and I was able to see certain bugs in your application. I think you should give me 5,000 Bitcoin." Or 5,000. I mean, because I'm a legitimate guy, I will show myself. I tell them, oh, this is me, John Mago. I did this. I'm not malicious. I did not bring down your platform. I did not hack you. I don't have your sensitive data, but I was able to access your platform. What this means is your platform is at risk. You know what? I can
Yeah.
help you remediate it because I was the one that found it anyway. Let me help you, but pay me XYZ $1,000. I will do it for you. That's bug bounty. But around threat hunting for an institution is pretty much what a red team and a blue team will do. And I'll explain what they are. In an institution, most times in the financial institutions and around the cybersecurity team, there will be a team called the red team. What they do is they are supposed to attack, they simulate an attack, right? They simulate an attack on the infrastructure, assume as if they are a hacker and try to hack the infrastructure. They work for the bank, but they try to hack the infrastructure to see if I were a hacker, what can I
Yeah.
access? What can I do? And even if I'm able to enter the network, how far can I go? Like, am I able to access the core banking application? Am I able to access other mobile applications? Am I able to access the email? Am I able to access the demilitarized on the DMZ? So it depends what the hacker wants to do, right? Then there's a blue team. What the blue team will do is the blue team will now prevent the red team from hacking the infrastructure. So it's pretty much like how they do virus and antivirus. Somebody builds a virus, somebody builds an antivirus. Usually it's the same company that does it. One company just builds the virus and it then has a solution that builds an antivirus. So don't let me digress. Anyway, so but remember that the red team and the blue team, all of this is simulated in a different environment. Of course, you can't do that in your main live environment. You're going to bring down your system. Now, that environment that has been simulated is called the honeypot, right? So this is us going to hunt for vulnerabilities, create a simulated environment that looks like our original environment. And sometimes you now have to tell the real hackers, make them think that that simulated environment that we have built is our main network and let them hack us. So in that main environment, we'll put in it will almost be a clone of the actual environment. We'll put in the same structure in VLANs and network segmentations and all of that. We'll put in the same structure. They will think that it is our actual environment and they will try to hack us. And in trying to do that, what that does for us internally is we will understand the concept in which a hacker and how far the hacker can go in our environment. He also teaches us the different areas in which we need to solidify our security posture as much as possible. Remember that there is no risk because it is a simulated environment. So it is not our real live production environment. It is a simulated environment. But the hacker doesn't know this. We only have put it in place for the hacker to try and let us see. They are trying to hack us, but we are trying to educate ourselves of the risk that we pose when an actual hack happens on our production environment. I hope I was able to break it down to a reasonable extent. So it's also the
Yeah.
same way as the concept of threat hunting, where you can also sort of go and look for the threat and try to mitigate it in your environment.
Yes, that was very detailed. And cybersecurity is such an interesting field because there's so much to learn and know. Okay, so my next question would be, this is probably my last question. You had so many questions coming from participants today that I can't even cover all the questions that I have. So yeah, my last question would be, aside artificial intelligence, what trends do you see in cybersecurity in 2025 and beyond? At least in the next couple of years.
I will try to scare everybody now. There's something coming that is big. Don't be scared. You know, when artificial intelligence was coming, everyone thought, this is going to take all our jobs. We'll not have jobs. Every system will be so intelligent. There will be organization will build decision engine so people don't have to use their brains. So the machine learning capability is now using its brain, and there will be that decision engine. So the moment I build my decision engine, of course, I've already put in all the rules and perspectives and the playbooks on my decision engine. So why do I need somebody else to think when I already have a system? So what 50 people would do, one system would do. So they will just fire all the 50 people. It was a fear, right?
Yeah.
What we have come to see is that aside the automation of those systems and those platforms, making them more intelligent to increase effectiveness in that process, we still need people to carry out certain actions, right? It takes, so technology really is around baggage in and baggage out. It is what you tell it to do that it will do, right? There's a concept of robotics that even artificial intelligence can build, right? And it can be simulated, but even for a robot, it is what you build in the memory of the robot that it would do. Let's forget all these movies that we watch nowadays. Right? And I know there's the anyway, I'm not gonna digress because I like evolution, so I'm not gonna digress. But yes, there's something coming called quantum computing that should scare everybody, right?
Okay.
Quantum computing is coming. If you ever remember back in the day, we used to use disk drives, right? And the disk
Yeah.
drive cannot be more than maybe 64-bit disk drive. But today we are
Gen Z
using
can't believe.
terabytes hard drive the size of our thumb, right?
Yeah.
Before we used to buy blades. I think when I say before, this was just maybe like a decade ago. We used to buy IBM blades, massive enough, and we'll go into the data center and the sound of those blades because they are functioning. There are so many switches and routers and edge routers in those blades. So the board is screaming, and you have to invest in air conditioners to cool it. I mean, all of those things. It was just 1 terabyte. But now you can have one tiny disk drive, one tiny flash drive that is a terabyte that you can use to process data. What is and you can look at that as the evolution of data retention and data storage, right? Let me bring this to quantum computing. What this means is your processing speed. If we were processing speed in computers, in machines, in systems, if we were processing it a decade ago, um, maybe now it would be like 10 times faster in 2024. in quantum computing, and if you know the concept of quantum generation, right? In quantum computing, it will be 1,000,000 times faster. I just said today is 10 times faster. In quantum computing, it will be 1,000,000 times faster. Now, I'll tell you where that becomes a risk. Because in every of this evolution, there will always be the risk in it. And then the threat actors and the threat factors that apply to them, right? What this means is today I'll just speak only around the concept of passwords, right? Today they'll tell you NIST is a standard framework, and they have come to say, you know what, you must have 12 characters. Back in the day it was 8, and I realized that 8 is not even enough length. 8, I mean the length of your password. They've increased it to 12, and it must be alphanumeric, and you must have special characters. You must have one uppercase, minimum of one uppercase, minimum of one lowercase, minimum of one numeric, and then alphanumeric, those symbols. It makes it very complex. Has anybody ever wondered why they are trying to make it so complex? They're trying to make it so complex because there's something called hashing, right? Where you can use tools and systems to hash somebody's password. If you have a length of 12 and alphanumeric password, what that means is it would take any hacker almost 1,000 years to crack that password using hashing, HD5 hashing. What I mean is 1,000 years. For you to have that, the length of 12 and alphanumeric password, it will take 1,000 years. So that brings the concept of password to be extremely protected if you follow those protocols. However, what quantum computing will come to do, because it will increase exponentially the rate of processing. Right? What that means is what they could do for 1,000 years, they probably will not be able to do for 1 year or even less. So when there's a targeted attack on a specific person, you know how they do like BC attacks on so something we call business email compromise. BC attack is when you target, for instance, the MD of an organization because he has certain approval limits and they can approve hundreds of millions. Or you target the CFO, or you target the CISO like myself, because I have certain accesses that are very privileged. Or you target the who else is critical self? Well, I mean, you know those big boys,
Yeah.
minus me. All those big guys that have certain accesses that are extremely privileged. So when they target those kind of people, they target them with phishing emails. You have no idea the number of phishing emails I get every day because I am a target, right? So I'm extremely careful how I manage my password, and even my culture of reading emails and accessing certain websites that already have those malwares. By the way, you don't always attacks like that will not always come via phishing. Sometimes it's the websites that you access, those free movies that you are watching, those free websites where you download those free things. They tell you nothing is free on the internet. A hacker like me, I will go there, install a .executable file, like a bug there, because I know somebody will come and download something, and then you see somehow your system begins to misbehave in a certain way. It is slow. It is certain sounds are increasing, and your documents are duplicating. All of those things tells you that there's probably a malware, a Trojan on your system or something. Again, let me not digress. Speaking of quantum computing, what this means is processing will be faster, exponentially faster, and not just in the good way, but also in the bad way, right? What it means is what would take a hacker many years to do has been reduced to a couple of days and a couple of minutes. So the idea is, how do we protect ourselves from this evolution? Because, for instance, I've been a risk manager. My job is to begin to think of how am I going to stop this evolution coming? Because it has come, it's already in China, it's already in North Korea, it's already in the US, it's already in Russia. They're using it, but of course, it has not come to we are always how many years behind. But when it comes, how do we tackle it? How do we protect it? Because the hacker in the US already is thinking, they always try to be a step ahead of the good ones like us, right? They're already thinking, how can I use this to exploit? I'm not going to wait for 5 years' time for Africa to catch up before I begin to protect my infrastructure. No, I'm already thinking, you know what? I'm going to increase the length of my password to 20, for instance. I'm just saying. I mean, I've not done that yet. I'm just saying that I'm going to increase, instead of saying one symbol, I'm going to say put 5 symbols, make it more, harden my password, make it more, add more symbols that are more alphanumeric than they already are, for lack of a better word, right? All this is just to ensure that even if somebody gain access to it, it's most difficult for them to crack it. So that's one of the most significant evolution that I know that is coming. There are a lot of other things. Artificial intelligence also still remains a problem, right? Because I'm sure a lot of us have heard about deepfake and how people are mimicking voices, mimicking facials, mimicking even different concepts of builds that we have already put in place in liveliness checks, and the other ways we can tackle that is ensure that while those authentication, even if they are breached, there's a controlled process behind it that ensures that there's some sort of validation of that. So, for instance, the guy that lost $75,000 million in China, or was it China or not South Korea, just because he watched a video where the MD said, they were in a Zoom meeting and they approved a certain deal with somebody, but whereas it was a deep fake, it was an AI driven person behind that did it. But if you build a process around that where even regardless of your MD's visual approval or voice approval or facial approval, there's a process of a maker checker where even your MD is not able, segregation of duty is not able to be a single signatory to certain or approval. Or you also don't want to say approval should come via voice, or it has to be signed and it has to be authenticated, and that signature has to be foolproof. And it really takes less than 2 seconds to take a phone call to call the person, regardless of who you see in a meeting, to call, like, just to double check that you validated or you confirmed this or you signed this. All of those little processes are what will then protect us in form of artificial intelligence. Of course, there are other things around blockchain. Quite a lot of risk. But yeah, I see blockchain, cryptocurrencies is a risk as well, because it then helps to um, reduce the trace of digital money. It is not a legal tender, but it is approved by some payment platforms, and we can't always run away from it as financial institutions anymore. It has come to stay, right? Cryptocurrency. So either you find governance around it and you build processes around it, or you will lose, because the world is also evolving to where they want to make certain payments through cryptocurrency, and you can't be left behind as an institution, right? So, but just building it still poses a risk because it's not a traceable tender, right? And most people that use it are people that do not want you to know that they are the ones receiving this money. So then the likelihood of them being malicious is very high, right? So yeah, I think those three concepts really are the biggest that I see that are the emerging trends from 2025 and above.
Okay. Phew. That's a lot to take in. But don't be scared. If we are, don't be scared. Yeah, quantum computing is coming, and you heard it here first. What a very enlightening and engaging session that we have had. if you want to learn more, and you should want to learn more about cybersecurity, because it's something that affects every single person. As long as we are living in a tech-driven world, you do not have to be in, you don't even have to be in the cybersecurity space or a tech group to be cyber conscious. So we have a course, if you're not aware, we have a course on Verticul, cybersecurity risk management, and again, the link will be shared in the chat. That course will provide you with fundamentals of cybersecurity, how to protect yourself in a digital world. And also we are giving discounts on not just the cybersecurity risk management course, but our courses in general. So where you actually get to tell us what you want to pay for a course. So if I were you, I would jump on that ASAP. Thank you so much once again, Mr. John, Mago, for coming on our AMA session. It was very enlightening. I believe that other people have enjoyed it too. And not only, was it enlightening, it was engaging. All the jokes you shared and everything made it very easy for us to understand, the cybersecurity lingo and all of that. So thank you so much. You guys just drop your favorite emoji, say thank you to John for sharing all
Thank you
that
guys
with
for
us.
having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. We look forward to another time where we can have this with you. Thank you, everyone. Do have a great day ahead. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.